welcome to our lovely future humans, and to those who are curious on, yes, our lovely life, no shortcuts, and are you going to choose to be yourself in the VVS or not? Ventral vagal state. So what you want to know is that you don't have to obviously choose your health, but that would be ideal. At the same time, this is where it doesn't matter what I speak out of my mouth, words. That's why I keep saying they're not powerful. We just use them to talk. I know I do. There are people who enjoy highs and lows because they enjoy intermittent reinforcement of that which are the addictive roller coaster up and downs of their dopamine gratification hits. So fantasy stages, these are emotionally unavailable people. They do not believe they will succeed because they did not get gifted the opportunity to start off to succeed. They had not been taught to self-regulate. And we're going to read some quotes. So for now, being yourself in VVS is described very well by Sadhguru's quote for today. He has one today. One who is consistently resting within oneself is capable of endless activity. And so with eustress and being anchored in ventral energy, that is why we are always on a high. Our wounds don't make us strong. Our battles don't make us strong. Really, what makes you strong and courageous is the fact that you move into curiosity with your own ventral vagal state. And so your child is to be seen by you, and that's it. And when our biosphere and our mui, biosphere is from Terry Rio, mui is from Dr. Danny Siegel, don't pay us back, it's okay because they don't have to. Thanks to self-regulating, and that's why our emotional resilience is of the good kind, unlike when Dr. Amy Pegan presents us the ones who are doing the bad kind. So we know how it's not by choice that human beings don't know how to self-regulate, but we do see that the ones who are hooked on their drama and fantasy 3D 4D continue to play that game, and they like to use monsters and stories. So I will have to allow you to understand the 5D collective. IHP is only for those who are in love with life, and that means they're in love with themselves first, and then they're also therefore in love with you. And it doesn't mean they're going to pat you on the back. No, they know healthy self-worth and how to accept that they won't get it right all the time, and how not to waste time with anybody who is not in any way, shape, or form wanting any kind of healthy relationship. We in fact don't even need to learn how to handle that. But if you do want, there's a good video out there. I shared a little bit about it in one of the videos. So I think that yesterday's one of the shorts, was it? Or maybe one of the long ones. Patrick Tiahan, an abusive parent expects flawless performance from their child while creating ongoing damage to their nervous system. And while he won't, be ready to forgive, and he says those who want to forgive, that's bullshit, I know why he is sharing that. His community is one, people who need to have a person like him. IHP community, it's inspiring human potential. We bring our A game. So healthy perfectionism is what you see in front of you. Also, a person who owns this, nobody can fuck with me because no one can touch this nervous system. The heart can't be broken because I was an adolescent when I said it's a muscle. And that was after like one of the cries I had, some shit went down, and I'm like, yeah, but I promised Jesus, God, Holy Spirit that I am going to love. I'm not closing my heart because they don't know how to be kind. Actually, I will show them what love is because that's the whole point. They obviously don't know what love is. So you don't feel that you are actually doing something special by forcing strength and courage and then moving into curiosity. That's called emotional resilience the good way because you're self-led. So nobody fucks with me. When you own the sense of self, nobody fucks with your own self-regulation skills. But when a person doesn't have that and their nervous system was fucked with, they don't own the sense of self, which is why lovely Patrick Tiahan has a video, why your CPTSD isn't getting better. And he mentions that which is really challenging for those who are still healing and why it doesn't get better. Let me see if I can find the notes. I have a lot of different notes around, so give me 1 minute as I look away from you, because when I have camera, that's the problem. Well, when I'm doing our audio podcast, which I miss, but so this is lovely Richard Schwartz, as he points out, securely attached people are more self-led and have access to their emotional charges. So we always are able to process that which is an emotional charge. We don't feel under pressure. Here it is. we actually flow not only with the wind, but we flow with the truth and equilibrium. And so our thoughts and our emotions, all of our activity, we have a very deep relationship with ourselves. So the why your CPTSD isn't getting better, if you're curious, his video, that's the title, and he explains how disturbances in self-organization is what takes place, and it is separate from standard PTSD and from CPTSD. Relationships, emotions, affect, and the sense of self. So when people don't know how to self-regulate, we are aware, and that's why we won't hold it against somebody that they lack self-regulation skills. But they can choose to learn how to become their real self and to actually enjoy relational joy versus the low dopamine gratification hit. But again, you can't actually make a donkey drink from the water that is good for them, because there's a bunch of people that don't want it. And yeah, I laugh because it's not a monster. They actually not only live off of the ups and downs and merry-go-rounds of their dopamine hit and their fantasy and the intermittent. They actually, it's like a gambler. They're addicted to it. And they refuse to notice their maladaptive patterns of behavior are unhealthy, because they don't like the word. They don't even like to hear the word. So they will completely create not only cognitive dissonance, they deny the modern day therapist. So they'll cherry pick what they want to hear and not, which is why if you're going to think of AI, technology, or any of modern day therapists in negative ways, you won't want to be here, because those are all things that are part of our present and into our future. And what I will know is if you're liking or not liking is of more importance to you than actually being yourself in ventral vagal state and hearing a conversation. You're not yet able to discern that which is with self-awareness, what your likes and dislikes are when you're listening to somebody else chit-chat. Okay, so when we are grown-ups, we actually enjoy anything that we're hearing. We don't feel of good or bad in a way of like making us turn it off or turn it on. That's in the years that you practice, obviously choosing the equanimous, discerning, loving. Thanks God, that's what God is to me. If you read the chapter from the book, I'm a co-author of The Ways to God. But the other thing that those who live on intermittent ups and downs, merry-go-rounds, they disconnect. So that's how they can distance themselves from others, which is why they can dehumanize. They dehumanize and they continue with narratives. So they detach, they create a separation from someone, and they isolate themselves from the dehumanizing, so they can easily disrespect, delusion, disconnect from the truth. Yes, they mask, and that's why they have their, it's like a Wendy with Peter Pan's. Demoralize, helplessness, despair. That's something that can also happen. So if you present to them that there's an opportunity, they present to you. That's why they're like just any negative person, really. Anybody who's crapping still on humanity. I was a teenager and I'm like, we're the same species. Stop. We are imperfect and flawed. There's no need to keep talking about it this way. Like now I just know you're emotional. Okay, so when people want to ruminate, that's what they're going to keep doing. Small-minded adults, they like to use words like integrity, and yet they have none because they don't understand what subjective experiencing is with the heart. They can use their mouth. If you have no capacity to have compassion and understanding that I think differently, and you instinctively will think that I'm dumb. I do it too. I sometimes still say, no. So the point is none of us are dumb for real. And we all can be emotionally upset. No chips on the shoulder. As you grow more grown up, you learn how to have a good time with everyone and anyone. And that's why we become more of our functional child adults. So we don't need Terreal. We don't need Patrick Tian. We don't need therapy. Emotional intelligence means you're ready to actually put wellness, lifestyle, and intentional living into practice every day, which is why it's daily. We use daily. I still work with my neuroplasticity. There's always going to be something that you're going to be dealing with that's unknown, unexpected, unwanted. Uncertainty. Oh, and twin flames don't throw you off your rockers if you're an empowered, feminine, divine, whatever words you want to use, because that's the whole point. This is why you would be an empowered divine feminine, and you're also therefore empowered divine masculine. Otherwise, you're not divine anything, because you're not a conduit. And so the divinity word that you hear, those who are in 3D, 4D, they like to say we're a piece of, and they're making, that which is the stars. I love the stars. I've seen the stars in my mind's eye. And I love Neil deGrasse. I love being a spiritual one. I'm pseudoscience for that reason. Because, yeah, sciences explain everything with math. And they're awesome, though. When you meet the ones who love what they do, wow, it's mesmerizing. And even Neil deGrasse knows it's a miracle to be alive. He describes it in a way that makes and gives honor to God's creation for those of us who are of spirit. He doesn't take away from it, which is why shame on the grown-ups who still lie to children and say God doesn't need science. We know he doesn't need science. Fact is, science explains that every single human being is headed towards their health, and you're not supporting them in a cohesive effort of let's get more human beings integrated in their brains and in their restorative embodiment. So you're not coming together with all the different groups. No, rumors of yoga spreading demons or whatever, Reiki being energy, dark and all these words. Reiki is not devil's energy. Just because you built a little qualitative analysis, I can do the same thing. And that's a theologian who decided that they're going to make Reiki bad. Yoga, demons, I don't even know how that began. You're insulting an entire heritage. Why? Because you read a book of yesterday's news and you're interpreting it like my friend when I talked to him about Kali, Shiva, and Krishna. Oh, Kali's a monster. No, not the way I learned of what Kali is and why you... Monsters don't exist. You know, they didn't have TV back then. They described things in ways that I'm sure if we read Shakespeare today, we'd be like, wow, is that... Did you know angels, the way that they were described was completely in a different way, which when you think of how we evolved, this is why it makes me laugh when people want to continue talking to me about love and God and angels and everything, but they seem to not notice that they're still choosing to see that there's a bad group of sorts. While yes, we have bad things happening on planet Earth, it's because of the suffering collective. That's why bad things still happen. Know exactly where all the unkind business comes from. Those who are rigid, unforgiving, harsh, they don't know how to negotiate. They actively cherry pick what they like and don't like. They create words like lack of imagination for evil versus, excuse me, how about you get educated? How about you learn to give all people a shot? How about we all decide to know how healthy, self-worth people are, emotionally mature, and that means you're flexible and adaptive and coherent, energized, and you don't actually, and stable. Thank you, Dr. Anasio. So when you meet pseudo-intellectuals, they like to wield their mouths in ways that fancy the group that is small-minded due to the fact that they need a good group and a bad group, which tells me that they haven't forgiven what happened to them. They're actually in their entire group with a charge going after, is the fourth step to healing trauma charges, getting bystanders to go punish the other side. So they have, I'm upset at the other group, and it's subconscious, by the way. And this is where I know I can make sense of myself, but this isn't Maria trying to make sense to herself. I'm letting you understand what the one group and another group. So one will be focused on what they want to see the world become. So they'd love to have puppets of themselves as children, which is why their children are probably being made to be little good boys and girls that follow their lists of rules. The other is the other extreme of we want everything that we didn't get up till now. And here we have the dysregulated, if you will, and the immature version of one group and another group. Then the middle is like, okay, look, we all have a heart and we all have opinions and we all know what our ancestors did. They fucked up, yes. We all understand history and how it works. We do know why stories were created before science explained what is in the embodiment of human beings. And thank you, Patrick McNamara and all the scientists for neuroscience, neurobiology, explaining the embodied brain. We all know how it works effectively, which is why if anyone's a brilliant anything, they're going to consistently learn more about that, which is called the somatic experiencing and how every person is. And you know, I do wonder, I bet you they're already doing it. So I was thinking about a sidetrack. Okay, division, destruction. Those are the other things that people do to disconnect. So they divide, fragment, dual, destruction, destabilize, erase, significantly, damage. So yeah, those are all the D's that help people to basically continue to treat each other with the lack of self-awareness, accountability, regulation. So while those who are in the middle that I was describing aren't going to pick what I want or what you want, or this whole unfair, unjust. Yes, we know what is going on. We want to be able to talk, and so grown-ups can talk. And that's why they self-regulate. And equanimous tones are what leaders are made of, because that's what discernment is. Those who will continue to rise and play to a crowd, they don't really mean much. Mediocre is what those people are. But we listen to all sides of a story because, again, the smart professionals and the smart anyones care about what they do. Be yourself with your ventral vagal state. It means that your passion and what you are made in every way, whatever it is, that you will know it because your heart doesn't lie. So like I help people like I wanted to when I was an 8-year-old. It's to be you, not to be me. I don't save you. I help you by supporting you to understand why being yourself in the ventral vagal state is amazing. I didn't know the ventral vagal state was needed for you to be yourself. Now I do know. Now I also know what I knew when I was a teenager, and I still know it now. I don't talk sense to you. I'm not going to try to convince you. I don't actually want to. That's not my, no, I just want to talk. That's it. There's no point in it. So people who don't like to waste their time like that, they won't be hanging around here because they have places to be, things they want to prove, and I'm not proving the scientists. I'm actually not even proving me. I'm sharing the opportunity for those who want to be their self to have a mentor, a content creator, the digital content that I'm creating that you can purchase and that you can subscribe to for the Spotify and their podcast host. So you get a number of options. TikTok, I have lives there. YouTube, I haven't had for a while. But my point is, it was never about let me change you, because I don't change you. You don't change me. But see, that's because when you own the sense of self, you expand. And so you won't feel changed. Those who feel changed are those who finally find out who they were meant to be, because they say, yes, I want to take off this performance and this mask because I don't need it. And they don't unwire and rewire, and no, they don't talk about themselves like an object, because whenever I'm hearing people objectify their journey, it's you don't know how to say you have a 0-1-year-old who was an attached panicky. You don't want to call your child parts child part. You actually have an issue with being vulnerable like a child, which means you're still afraid to meet that innocent child, because that innocent child was not welcomed with a home that in one way, shape, or form had their 0-1-year-old and their 3 to 7 feel at ease with being codependent and needing them on all shapes, ways, and forms, which is why Patrick Tian is awesome. He may not like me because I forgive, but I like him and know that he works with the brave boys and girls who reparent and they claim their innocence back. And it's hard for them when they're projecting, but they still know with a good leader, because he leads them to know what projection is. And then when he says, those of us who want to forgive, it's bullshit. I get that, because again, I get who he is working with. They're not ready for that. Maybe they will be one day, but not yet today. I don't need to forgive. There is no injustice done to my inner child. She's here. In fact, nobody can touch this at all. Because it's a heart and it doesn't get broken. It's a muscle. And that's why you keep it open. And that's why you don't force strength and courage because you cry a little, but you do get curious as fuck. Yeah. That's why the journey of your oversoul and you, if you're a mystic and spiritual, you're not ego dying, dark night of soul, ego death, no, there's none of that shit. You don't feel life that way. That's for the people who don't know how to self-regulate. You want to know how an empowered feminine feels as we get to walk a walk and talk a talk? Oh, so Jesus, he didn't have science to share with him why he was perceiving all of humanity's suffering. It's because we're a species, like modern day therapists will inform you. And Tara Brach is the one who informed me of something I had already intuitively as a mystic knew, that I will perceive every single one of the bodies out there. So will you if you're a person who is intuitive and or somatic empath and or Tara Brach, who explains we are a frequency. So we'll pick up on each other. Luckily, now that people are learning self-regulation skills, so we put it already into practice, we can thank the therapist, because now we have more children who know how to make do of their body the way it was meant to be used. And so when you hear about polyvagal theory, he's still working on it. Stephen Porges, he explains to you our species evolved to have this ventral vagal state once we got to sit down with each other. The ones who like to call people reptilians and not reptilians, they're dehumanizing again. So it's not fascinating to see those who dehumanize people. And really what I understood is a lot of people read books and then they take it out of context. And while I read books and learn attachment trauma and I integrate it, yes, I'm doing personal and spiritual growth. So to me, I'm integrating the words that will help different corners of those of you who come here to understand restored embodiment, self-awareness, accountability, regulation. In fact, actually now I have all the words that I need to say it's being yourself because you can navigate your nervous system. It's emotional intelligence and resilience because it's the good way. And that means you are always open-hearted. You also don't whine about grief. You don't make it seem like it's amazing. If you're a mystic, you'll know as you are moving into the mastery of your mental, emotional, and physical plane, because I went through that once I moved to the emotional, I knew it. At that point, there was Twin Flame 3 that came into the picture, if I remember correctly, and then physical or something like that. But I knew, and I'm an Akashic record reader, by the way, so science is amazing how they're telling you how consciousness consistently unfolds. Integrity, it's not the set of values or ethics that people want to keep using their mouths about, although those are obviously, we have structure for reason, but it's the coherence between how you are, how you think, and how you act. Thank you, Sadhguru. Which is why you will know that it is what other people say about me won't matter. I will not be ashamed of me. So when you have the 3-year-old of you, you will know what it means to be ashamed or guilty of something because of what you brought. When you continue to bring forth the innocence of you because you allow yourself to know we're all kids that then grow up, you don't lose anything. Love is all things. Love never dies. Love doesn't obstruct free will, and love doesn't judge. And, at the end of the day, healthy fear, we need it. Unhealthy fear are those low dopamine hits, small gratification, and that's why, like with my facade friend, they don't really care about who you are or your story because they don't believe in your story. Because you're not right, they're right, you're wrong, and everything that they say is the right way, everything else is the wrong way, and they continue to stay small-minded. So the reality is I don't use the word belief personally, except for, I believe in God. I do believe. No, I experience my mystic life. I don't believe in it. I experience it. I'm an intuitive. I channel. I see the ascended masters, the fairies, all that stuff. Those are experiences. They're not just beliefs that I read things, but I believe in God. I believe in the spiritual plane. Yes. I do not believe in science. I know science. I learned science. It doesn't disprove God or the spiritual plane, but it definitely tells me why there's no monsters inside of anyone. Which I didn't need, by the way, because when I became a mystic, I had already told God, I don't see Lucifer, just a bunch of cowards. And then I got all attachment trauma educated, and I cried for all those people who are still cowards, who don't cry or shed a tear for any of those who they actually physically, emotionally, or mentally hurt. In fact, they continue to spread rumors about bullshit because that's how cognitive dissonance and structurally dissociated adaptive child part people work. And they're emotionally immature, and they cherry pick what they like and don't like, and they don't sound intellectually intelligent. They just sound like pseudo-intellectuals to those of us who are intellectually intelligent. That's why you can't be intellectually intelligent for real if you don't know how to discern when somebody is spitting out their own experience with a bunch of taintedness and then they're missing other data points. Because, I forget. I like learning things. So whenever someone's talking about anything and it's human related and any other topic that I do know, if I don't know, I don't know. That's why we're all ignorant about something. But I digress. So being yourself, it definitely is fun in your ventral vagal state. Those who are not going to join us, it's okay. We do know how every one of us has walked a journey, and so we don't know each other's journey. We do appreciate sharing journeys together, and so with healthy self-worth people that are empowered, it's not chips on the shoulder. We will look forward to having all types of conversations and not diminish one experience or another. And that's why I love the 5D collective of spiritual, mindful, and mystic. So they are in the same team, same boat, and then we explore with a level of curiosity. No person won't move into tomorrow. So when I hear some people say, with trauma, you don't manifest, people will continue to manifest because you manifest every day of your life. And so, again, words don't mean much to me, but when I'm hearing people convey an idea that some won't get something in life, it reminds me of like when people say evil always wins, the good never gets, okay? So there's this two sides. So they're thinking of life with an outcome, and I'm trying to help you understand on an individual scale what this is. You get to be you from a lightheartedness with a light gut and a light mind, because you create mental and emotional exercises for the activity that arises, and you're dealing with unknowns, uncertainties, unexpected, unwanteds with an open heart that enjoys your relationships and the entire globe and beyond, and that doesn't suffer because of them suffering, doesn't suffer the grief of being unknown. You don't get angry in a way of they need to know me. You don't suffer because of the lack of capacity for those human beings who are small-minded. Their lack of self-regulation skills has their hearts being closed and sensitive and cold assholes. And they're all the teenage assholes who sound like morons. And they're not brilliant. They lack education. They lack compassion. They lack that which is integrity. And above all, they lack humility. They lack to understand why God's perfect. They lack to understand why science is perfectly presenting love. And then they actually do get distracted by the ones in the middle with their narratives. And that's because they are more inclined to want to have a showdown, because they enjoy fighting, because they have a gratification dopamine hit. They're drama kings and queens. They can't get it off of eustress because they like distress, because they dysregulate, and they enjoy modulation, and that's where they're comfortable. Then they choose. That's why determined. Thanks, Robert Spolsky. For all we know, he's correct. They will choose their 3D, 4D, their B game. Mediocre people choose their B game because they don't choose a safe body because they didn't have one to begin with. So safe haven, secure base, they're not, which is why they don't pay back the biosphere, because they don't learn to self-regulate. Like my facade friend, they just learn how to be that version of themselves and to continue performing in life with their core wounds never being taken a look at. And the teenager, which is the protector, doing that, which is why they're actually harming their body, because they're in a distress. And that's the bad resilience that Dr. Amy Pegan talks about. So it's not something, wow, how amazing, when I'm seeing people that are actually in their distress and they're deciding equanimity is bad, and that they think discernment means them choosing their own gut. Discernment means knowing how to understand. We have good professionals and good experts, and then we have the ones who are a lot of different things, and they actually don't care to continue mingling and tingling with their colleagues, and they don't care to bring it all together because they're so competitive. But at the same time, do we really need to make a big deal out of it? Nah. No, because emotion intelligent ones are the ones who are going to be bringing, like I do, the concealant approach. And so we like to let you know, science, spirituality is not competing. Personal growth, spiritual growth happen for people who are growing. So when you be yourself, you don't need me. You will want me, meaning a mentor, a content creator, podcast host, that you enjoy hearing about emotional intelligence, hearing about making fun of Pinocchio's Island, but really also being with like-hearted people who know that crying is not a big deal, that yes, of course, we would love for things to be perfect, but they're not. Healthy perfectionist here. It's not something that we think is bad to create resilience, and so to deal with the unknowns of life. There's no shortcuts in life. So we're good with life, because that's the part. We deal with it from an open heart, and then we have our own self to self-regulate, and then we also have our activities, the mindset activities, the physical activities, the emotional activities, because we have emotionally intelligent people around us. So we have A gamers, and then the B gamers, again, they're not going to be fucking with our biosphere or our me, because we don't do the gratification hit. They do. We do relational joy. So I'm happy if you're happy. That's it. I don't ask you to be something different than what you are, because that's bullshit. I'm not going to be different than who I am. And so when some people say you have to change, the people who need to change is because they will have still self-empowerment, accepting, and all that. Once you're empowered to be yourself, you will feel expanded, because you don't feel changed, even though it's also play with words. So some people would say, but you changed your hair. Yes, I did. Okay, so you changed. Okay, then. And so remembering, it's not like a black and white thing, by the way. And that's why it's also fun to have these kinds of explorations together. And that's with the emotion intelligent ones. Join us here at HP. Share, like, subscribe, all that great stuff for others who do like to do emotional intelligence. And if I did not announce it, we're going to have some content on PayHip. And actually, I decided for the end of the year a 3-day mindset reset. That's probably going to be the first. And then I'm debating whether I want to do 10 micro habits for emotional resilience work and a mini emotional resilience guide, or one of the two. If you have some thoughts or you have some preferences, email me. And then a spiritual self-care ritual guide, and that's probably going to try to hone in on the fact that I know you pick up on your oversoul, and so with that in mind, it will be something that allows you to simply recalibrate when you're picking up on those who are part of it. So that's to be continued. And for our paid Spotify podcast audio, it's a done deal. I was going to add to it, but for now I'm going to leave 2025 with what we have in there. And there's exercises, readings, and spotlights. And then I'm still working on our 8th and 9th chakra activation and journal prompts, which I have plans for. So it's either Patreon or PayHip, because I'm having some trouble with Patreon. And then, well, you can email me for one-to-one mentorship and all that great stuff. We might have a late IHP show or a other IHP show type, because we have some channeled guidance, food for thought. But in the meantime, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.